Obtaining confidence in life. Upon arriving to prison, I was scared, but as time passed, I became one of the oldest ones, and people were scared of me, and I was no longer in fear. Like I think about, how I'm going to obtain this confidence because right now I'm going through a trial. I'm scared. How would you say it? I'm confused. I'm etc. etc. And this confidence, I know that the experience that I'm living will soon be over, and that I will obtain confidence from it, you know, and that's why I'm talking about obtaining confidence in life because there's always this new situation. There's always this, how would you say it, new, how would you say it, negative situation. Like prison. I remember when I was in prison, like I was scared of going in there. I was frightened. I didn't know what to do. Very much the way I feel now. Scared. I don't know what to do. What's going to happen to me, you know? But as I was in prison and I stayed and I stayed and I stayed out of trouble and I stayed away from idiots and I stayed away from this and I stayed away from that, and I took care of my person and I did this and I did that. I would go to school, I would go to work, I would work out. Um, People would draw near to me, like right now it seems so, how would you say it, stupid, but during the situation, it was like scary, I had gotten used to it, but people from the mafias, from different types of mafias, like if you go to a prison, there's like seven, eight, nine types of mafias, two black, two white, and like six or seven Mexican mafias. It was kind of weird to have these six or seven different types of mafias, Mexican mafias, all come up to me, you know, not at the same time. It's almost like if they would take turns, but they would come up to me and they would say, "You want to be part of us?" And I was like, I'm from the valley, you're from San Antonio. There is this Corpus Christi also asked me, I'm not from there. Why would you ask me to become part of you when I'm not from your area? It was all very confusing, and they would come up to me telling me, you want to be part of our mafia. There was this one guy that was like, I want to work out with you. He's like, hey, I like your routine, man. You've been doing it for a while, right? And I was like, yeah. He's like, I've observed you. I want to work out with you. And I was like, but you're in the mafia. He was he was he was the biggest. He was the most powerful one of all of them. The Mexican mafia. He was the one that controlled everything. There's only one Mexican mafia in each dorm. There isn't nobody else. And they control everything. They control the white, they control the black, they control the Mexican. The Mexican mafia controls everything. And this guy, he comes up to me and he's like, I want to work out with you, eh? And I was like, that can't happen. You're from the Mexican mafia. I can't have you right here beside me. He got mad and I think he asked another time and I told him no and he just stopped asking. But like as time passed, you know, this drama, people would beat up, man. There would all be all types of fights and I would go to school and I would come back and the dorm, all the beds were on the floor, all the mattresses, a whole bunch of personal stuff on the floor, papers and trash and food, commissary products all over the floor. And the guards would go in there because people were fighting or they were doing this or they were doing that or somebody did this or somebody did that. And they'll turn the dorm upside down. And after all that, I became one of the oldest ones. One of the oldest ones. And when you see new people walk in, you know, I would analyze, like, I'm not gonna talk to those two idiots. I'm not gonna talk to that idiot. That one looks more, how would you say, awake. I'll probably play chess with him later on. You analyze, you analyze, and so I would stay away from the idiots, the aggressive individuals, and I noticed that because I did that, because I would only focus on talking to the smarter people, because I would ignore and deviate from stupidity, that these stupid people, these aggressive people, they would become scared. Why? I don't know. I don't know, but I guess it was the way I was. The way my being, the way I was being, you know, reacting to the situation made these idiots, aggressive idiots, scared of me. Scared.